combine with each other over lunch. So, well, we're delighted to have Francine with us again today. Francine Tolson, a frequent speaker here at 40 Plus and other organizations. She's a business analyst who probes and elicits business requirements to design solutions. Whether in waterfall or agile, the end goal is the same. Clearly stated and detailed requirements, user stories for a product, system, or enhancement. She works with stakeholders to identify what they want and probe to elicit additional requirements that they may have overlooked as essential but not expressed or known, but can't be articulated. She has a systems thinking mindset, a holistic approach in seeing the interdependence of stakeholders, business functions, processes, and technologies that cuts across functional areas. She's often the bridge between the business and technical parts of the organization, translating perspectives and concerns to create shared understanding of issues and their implications. She's driven by intellectual curiosity and a passion for learning. She's currently a consultant with Gadget Space. I'd love to hear more about that. It sounds like a fun name. And her previous positions include working with Tangen Point Consulting Group at George Washington University and UUNet, one of the early founders in the Internet revolution. Her master's degree is from Darden School at University of Virginia and undergraduate at Trinity University. She's also a frequent speaker at Career Network Ministries, one of the other organizations that some of us mentioned is a terrific resource here in the DC area. So please join me in welcoming Francine. Thank
you. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
In some ways, what I'm going to tell you this morning shouldn't be new news. If you read the slides this morning, if you've attended the workshop or attending the workshop, many of the skills that I'm talking about have been featured by other speakers. Jamie Beaulieu, Alison Carty, Meg Hale, to mention a few. But the thing about it, the marketing plan, is putting all of those elements together as an action plan and a document that you can share with others. And I'll show you what I mean. So the agenda. Oops. What's marketing plan? 4 P's of marketing. Marketing plan is based on what companies do when they launch a product. Why should you have one? How do you use it? How does it differ from a resume? And I'm going to walk you through a sample plan and review. Now, you used to be able to download files from Meetup, and Meetup stopped allowing you to upload files that you could download. So what I've agreed to do with Ken is to provide the presentation and the companion workbook that my colleagues and I developed that takes you through the steps, gives you tips, gives you resources in developing your marketing plan. And I will send that to him, and he will send that out. It's probably going to take either to zip it or to take part 1, 2, or maybe 3 emails to send it, because it's a bunch of stuff. And the marketing plan template, Word doc that you can use to develop your marketing plan. So don't feel like you have to take copious notes, because you're going to be getting copy. Actually, not this presentation, an earlier one that has more text, no pictures. So it'll have more information on it. And you'll get the workbook and the marketing plan template. So I just wanted to alert you to that so you don't busily try and take a bunch of notes. So what is a marketing plan? It's a proactive approach to your job search. How many here spend lots of hours at the keyboard looking at Career Builder, Monster, Simply Hired, Indeed, etc.? Raise your hands. And spending lots of time submitting applications, right? Well, I'm going to tell you why that isn't the best use of your time. Not that you should abandon that totally, but it's not where you should be spending most of your efforts. The proactive approach to your job search is to figure out who you are, go after the job, network to make a contact, and have something to share with people when you meet with them. That's the proactive approach, that you're identifying the opportunities and going after them, rather than just passively, and it's really passive, applying to jobs online. And there are some ugly truths about job boards that I'll share as well. It is a self-assessment guide. You first have to know who you are as the product. You have to know your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses. You have to be able to articulate them to your to others as you're looking for a job and in interviewing. Critical piece. If you don't know who you are, how can you convince someone to hire you? You really have to know yourself inside and out. I call it deep navel gazing. Do a market analysis. Who's hiring your skills? What kind of companies or organizations should you be targeting because they need people like you? It's a plan for execution. Once you've identified and filled out the marketing plan, you actually execute it, and the principal part of executing it is networking. I can't stress enough how critical proactive, lots of networking is to your job search. And then it becomes a document to share. So you actually can hand your marketing plan not to hiring managers or internal recruiters, but to external recruiters and people you're information interviewing with and just meeting. Sounds good. So what goes in it exactly? So if you've been fortunate enough to have the benefit of Lee Harrison or Wright Associates as part of your outplacement from a job, all of us have the same elements, different stresses on it, but all of them. A professional objective, very short, basically a job title. Preferred titles you're seeking, and titles change, and we know that lots of middle management has gone away with financial recession. So you have to be really careful about the titles you choose. A positioning statement, a strong statement that's compelling, that states why somebody should hire you over someone with a similar background and experience. The core competencies you offer, the geographic and company demographic, geographic and demographic preferences for the kinds of companies or organizations that you're interested in, and a list of target firms. Critical to have a list of target firms. So the risk of not having a marketing plan is you're not going to do the networking you need. You're not going to be focused. You're not going to be targeting the kind of jobs you want, the kind of companies who are hiring those people for those kind of jobs. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Or my favorite quote is actually from Alice in Wonderland, Cheshire's Cat. If you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. So I mentioned 4 P's of marketing. What are they? Any company who's launching a product or relaunching a product does exhaustive research and analysis on the 4 P's. The product, what are we selling? In detail. It's not a box of detergent. We're selling product benefits. We're selling product characteristics. Sometimes emotional, sometimes real. Price. How much we're willing to sell it for to remain competitive in the market and yet earn the profit that we need to earn on that product. Place. Where and how are we selling it? So what are our channels? How are we getting that out? Promotion. How will we let people know we are selling it? What kind of marketing do we do? Where do we place that? All of these apply to you as the product. Lots of stuff to consider. So product is really a self-assessment and your brand. Your brand is your unique value proposition. What sets you apart from other people with your background and experience? What value can you always be counted on to deliver? How do you find that out? Well, I really suggest that you talk to former colleagues. Ask them, what could I always be counted on to deliver? What was I the go-to person for? You might be surprised at what they say. And the reason why you might be surprised is because your core strengths and skills come so easily to you that you take them for granted. I mean, if it's come so easy for me, it must come so easily for everybody else. So ask them. I think you'll get a lot of insight by talking to your former colleagues about these things. What's your value? What value were you always consistently delivering to your colleagues and to your company? What are your attributes? What emotional intelligence do you have? How adaptable and flexible are you? Detail-oriented, passionate, your work ethic, all of those things. What kinds of problems did you solve for your former employers? All of these, you talk about the success bites Ken mentioned earlier. These are the kinds of things you need to know. Mention your unique value proposition. What can they always expect from you? This is a deep, deep self-analysis. Look at any performance appraisals that you've had from things, any kind of testing that you've taken. Talk to your friends. If you ask my friends what they value about me, I'm the organizer planner. I always organize what we do. It's in my DNA. I've done project management before, but I'm also a cook. So if there's any kind of meal involved or picnic or whatever, they say, okay, Francine, what do we have? Doesn't apply in the job sphere, but you can get some informative things from your friends as well. Product, who's buying? So this is a lot of research. So now you know who you are and what skills you offer. You're the product. Who's buying that product? You have to know your value. What's the salary range that's competitive in the market that will give you the income that you need for your needs? Lots of resources out there, salary.com, Glassdoor, lots of places. But you need to know that because a lot of phone screeners, when the first call that a hiring HR person or recruiter does, they're going to ask you what salary you're looking for. What you don't want to do is give them a number. I really recommend that you give them a range and you say, I've done a lot of research for people for what's being paid to someone with my background and experience. And I found the range to be between X and Y. Is your job in that range? If it is, then I feel comfortable we can continue this discussion. So you haven't given a number, you've given a range, you've given yourself some flexibility in negotiation later. Shira Harrington recommends talking about a total compensation package. I agree with that if you're at a high level, a director or above, because companies and organizations have more flexibility with higher level positions. They don't for most of us. They have a salary range and that's what they're paying them. They're not going to need any more. They might be able to negotiate for more flexibility in time off or working from home or whatever, but the compensation is pretty much determined and there's not a lot of leeway for them. So I really recommend doing your due diligence, researching, finding out what the salary range is for someone, and if you're not sure what skill level, what level of person they're asking for, because sometimes job descriptions aren't very clear about that. Before you answer that question, say, gee, before I answer that question, can we talk about what level of person you're seeking? What kind of range of years of experience are you looking for? And you might find that they're looking for someone very junior, in which case you can say, gee, I really have a lot more experience. Do you have something else in your organization that would fit my skills? If they're looking for someone much, much more senior, you say, well, I have this much. Is there a latitude to grow into the job? So these are the things you want to get clear on in that initial phone screening interview so that you're equipped to answer all the questions to the best of your ability. Place. Where are you connecting with potential employers and their employees? We talked about networking. All networking is good. All networking is not created equal. If you got here and started talking to people, you started networking and finding out people. You can learn a lot and share a lot with fellow job seekers. A lot of your networking, however, needs to be targeted to putting yourself in places, in meetings, at events where you will meet with employees of companies or types of companies that you want to work for or employers themselves. So Shira Harrington has two terms that she uses, your tribe or your lane. Your tribe applies to those industries that are people tend to think themselves as belonging to an industry rather than a functional expertise. So you talk about satellite folks, geospatial, when someone mentioned geospatial, geographic. A lot of people identify with industries, associations. Other people identify with functions, business analyst, HR, marketing, finance. You might have expertise in a particular industry, but you're really more oriented towards your functional profession. Promotion. How are you communicating your value? Your LinkedIn, your resume, and your marketing plan should all express the same theme of your branding, your unique value proposition. They're going to be said in different ways. LinkedIn allows you to be a little bit less formal than a resume. Your marketing plan's positioning statement should have that. Think about your branding and how you're communicating your value to people. Your tell me about yourself, or elevator speech, or whatever you want to call it. All of it should express the same branding. I'm going to pause here because I've given you a lot. Are there any questions about what I've talked about so far? Yes?
You mentioned salary.
Yes.
Range. How wide of a range? 10,000, 5,000, 1,000?
It depends upon your experience level and what you're finding out there. I would say probably 15,000 is probably a right range. You don't want to narrow it so much. 5,000 sounds like it's too narrow to me. 10 sounds not quite enough. 15, maybe even 20, depending upon the level you are and your industry. Does that sound right to you,
Yeah,
Ken?
so,
Okay.
again, it's all
Thank you.
driven by the data you've identified, to know what's relevant. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
So how would you get that data?
Salary.com, information interviewing, talking to people.
Okay.
Payscale.com.
Payscale.com, there are a lot of resources. If you Google salary ranges or salary information, you might discover a few more.
Okay.
In addition, I heard a lot of folks talk about nonprofits. I'm sure all of you are familiar with GuideStar, which provides compensation information on all nonprofits around the country, provided that it's the compensation for the top employees. So you're not going to find the compensation for the accounting person unless they're the CFO and have a significant salary, but for the top people, you'll find it there. In addition, if you have let's talk about tribe and lane, if you're in a specific field like accounting, marketing, and so forth, I would suggest that, and this is not, go to the associations that represent those people, because chances are they've done a compensation report for their members. So engineers, whatever it is, ophthalmologists, whatever it is. Now you're not going to be able to get all the information because that's a value of membership, but you'll be able to get a top line that'll show you on average, ophthalmologists entry level is X or accounting level is Y. So professional associations out there in your specific fields can also be a source of that kind of information.
Thanks, Ken. So let's talk a little bit more about networking groups. Professional organizations. If you're in software or IT, I recommend you go to find the local chapter of the PMI where you are and go to PMI events. And there are a lot of lunchtime events that are brown bags that don't require you to spend money to go to.
Francine, can you describe PMI?
PMI, I'm sorry, it's the Project Management Institute. It's a national organization. It's the one that accredits, has the accreditation for project managers to get their PMP. So that's one example. I'm just giving examples. If you're in marketing, there's a Marketing Executive Networking Group, MENG. You're going to find a lot of these folks on Meetup as well as LinkedIn. So you want to go to meet people in your field of profession, and that's why those kinds of networking groups are really critical and valuable, because you're going to meet people who are most of the people attending are employed and they know about jobs in their companies, and you want to ask them about it. Some of these meetup groups actually allow the attendees saying, is anyone here whose company is hiring? And they'll stand up and talk about what positions they're hiring for. And they often allow job seekers to stand up and say what they're looking for. And it's a way to connect with people. I haven't gotten a job that way, but I've connected with recruiters and stuff. So it's important to do that. Another one that I'll talk about later is DC Link Tank. Google DC Link Tank. It's not a www. If you're in the public policy area, in the nonprofit area, you should know about idealist.org because their job bank has real jobs, but also DC Link Tank. DC Link Tank is a clearinghouse for meetings of all kinds of think tanks, research institutes, NGOs, other mission-driven organizations. They post their meetings, which are press releases, panel discussions, reporting out of project results. A lot of them are free, and they allow the organizations allow their employees to take time away from their job to go to these events because they're during the day, and most of them are in DC, because DC is the ground zero for all these kinds of organizations. You'll meet people in your field or in your interest group. It's domestic to global, cybersecurity, poverty, you name it, international development. The whole gamut is out there, nuclear war, I mean, everything. So I really recommend it. I think it's $3 a month now to belong, to have the full listing of just be able to see all of their events. They also have a job bank on DC Link Tank that has real jobs in these kinds of organizations. So I really recommend it. One of the organizations, I can't remember, it's a conservative organization, American Enterprise Institute, maybe. One of them has a lunch thing where you go and get a free lunch every week, every other week, once a month, I don't know. Anyway, they're great opportunities. And I went to one just because I was interested in the topic. And they provided a box lunch. It was like great. So I recommend that as a place to network. Your professional organizations, your alumni organizations. If you went to a major college or university, they probably have a local alumni chapter here. So I recommend that you get in touch and start attending those. Yeah, most of the attendees are going to be millennials, younger people, but it's still worth going to them. Yes.
If you have 30 seconds, I'd like to share a quick story about
Sure.
the networking and how it can give results when you don't expect it. Ken told me about a meetup group for nonprofit communications folks. I didn't want to go. It was out in Tyson's Corner, but I went. It was at 5:30, so rush hour traffic. I get there. I didn't know anyone. It was completely unstructured, no name tags, no program, just people milling around chatting, and most of them knew each other. I forced myself to talk to people, and I met a guy. He asked me about myself. He said, "You might be good for this communications position that's open at an association where I used to work." And I said, "Hey, I saw that. I actually applied for it." And we chatted for a while. He says, "I know the CEO, and he's a good guy, and I'm gonna recommend you. I'm gonna tell him that you applied for the job." And I got a call, and they asked for a salary range, and I gave them a really wide range. But I'm pretty sure I would not have received the call had I not met this guy, completely random. But I showed up despite my intentions not to, and it worked out pretty well.
Yep, that's exactly it's what I'm talking about. I went to, I do process improvement as well. And so I went to the local chapter meeting of the American Society for Quality, their Lean Six Sigma group. Met a woman there who had just left a job, chatted with her, and she said, "You sound like you'd be perfect to replace me. Do you want me to send your resume to the hiring manager?" And I said, "Sure." I was hired 3 weeks later. So these are the kind of connections you make when you go to the right kind of meetups. Don't discount meetups just for interest. Dining, rock climbing, hiking, games, whatever it is. I recommend that you go because you never know who you're going to meet, and you're pursuing something that you enjoy and that you have an interest in, and so you're on the same basis as everybody else there, and that's how you expand your network as well. Okay, let's move on.
Francine, just add to that quickly, because this is something I had to learn. If you're at those meetups that are not job related, don't forget to say you're looking for a job. Because either you're with the rock climbers or the needle pointers or the whoever, those are people who know you if you've participated more than once, And you know, you have to tell people that you're looking, otherwise they can't help.
So you complete the plan. You know who you are, you know your target, you're the kind of company you're looking for. So you do the market analysis you've done. So identify target organizations. You research companies to determine fit. You develop at least one contact in each company. You want them to be able to walk your resume to the hiring manager or take it to HR and say, you really ought to take a look at this. And to let you know when jobs are open. Many organizations, commercial organizations, have referral bonuses for their employees. So they're incented to and motivated to share your resume. You have to get to know them well enough so that they feel comfortable and their reputation is not on the line in recommending you. So that's the other part of getting to know someone. You're going to update and refine this list of target companies constantly. In all the networking that you do, don't rely on your memory. Keep track of it. Use an Excel spreadsheet. There is a free cloud application called jibberjobber.com. You can pay more for premium, for more functionality like LinkedIn, or you can use the basic. And it's basically a spreadsheet that you can access anywhere. I recommend it highly, or a spreadsheet. So when you take a company off of your list, off of your marketing plan list, you still have all the information in a spreadsheet or something, some document that lists all your contacts, what the gist of your conversation was, all the contact information, name, title, company, cell phone, or work phone, and email address. Don't delete anything. You may come across that company again, and you're going to want to know what you found out about it before. So your marketing plan is a constantly evolving document. You're going to add companies to the list. You're going to take companies off your list. Company you just found out about merged with another one. Usually when mergers happen, there are layoffs because they've got redundant people for the same role. But usually after 6 months or so, they've figured out and weeded out the folks who aren't producing and stuff, and they start hiring again. So make a note to yourself to put it back on your list in 6 months. Not the right opportunity now. It may be in 6 months. Those are the kinds of things. So tools and resources. Information interviewing. Who here doesn't know what information interviewing is? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Okay. Information interviewing is critical to your job search. You're not asking for a job. You are asking for information. When you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, and please, please, please do not use the default LinkedIn invitation. They've even modified the mobile app now. If you can send a personalized invitation to connect with somebody on LinkedIn. Lots of people, and I'm one of them, typically do not respond to the default message. If I look at the person's title and it's intriguing to me, I will write back and say, gee, why'd you reach out to me? What have you shared, or if I've met you and I don't remember, I apologize. Well, what prompted you to try and connect with me? I have a very nicely worded thing that I send them as email. Take the time to write a customized LinkedIn invitation. Information interviewing, there's a fabulous presentation that a presenter at Career Network Ministry at McLean Bible Church did on information interviewing, and I will send that document to Ken to send to you all. It's really excellent. And just Google information interviewing in quotes, and you'll find tons of information on that as well. It's a critical skill for your job search because it's a key component of your research to identify companies. If you look at somebody's LinkedIn profile, about at least a half a dozen questions ought to come immediately to mind of things you'd like to know about them, their career, how they progressed, how they got to the position that they're at, What are the critical skills for that kind of position, assuming that it's what you want to do? All those kinds of questions should be part of your what you ask them. If you're fortunate enough to get them to spend time with you for a virtual coffee on the phone or an in-person coffee. When you have an information interview, I can't stress enough, be respectful of their time. If you ask for 20 minutes, keep it at 20 minutes. At 15 minutes, say, we're getting near to the time. I want to be respectful of your time. So I just have one more question to ask you. If they had more time, they will say so. And you can take more time with them. If they don't, they'll thank you and say, yes, I do have to get going in 5 minutes or whatever it is. Always send a thank you note. Whenever you speak to someone, even on the phone or whatever, send a thank you note, acknowledge the time, be gracious, and express gratitude for the time they've spent with you and the information they've provided. Very key to building those relationships. Because networking is about relationships. It's not just meeting someone. It's about building a relationship. Somebody said you're going to get the presentation by Phil Snare. The personal contacts, networking events, online. Can anyone think of other places to network that we haven't mentioned? I've heard people do it in the grocery line. I also, my colleague who helped develop this workshop says tell your dentist, tell your hairdresser if you're a woman, because men usually just go to a barber and don't have a relationship. But if you guys go to a guy all the time or a gal all the time for your hair, tell them too. Because why? They have lots of clients and customers. And you never know. John got an interview with Booz Allen because he mentioned it to his dental hygienist. Didn't get the job, but he got the interview. So don't hesitate to tell everyone you know in a kind way. Gee, I really appreciate it. And when you have an information interview, don't leave without asking. The last question you should ask, is there anyone else you know that I should talk to? You're always asking for referrals, for information. Okay. Share your plan. So when you meet for coffee, take your marketing plan. Why? Because your marketing plan is a thumbnail sketch of you that doesn't convey any expectation that person's going to get you a job. It tells them about yourself, and it's readily digestible in 30 to 60 seconds. A resume is very dense. It has to be interpreted. It's much harder to tell a person. Plus, even though you don't intend it, there's an expectation, that subtext, that you expect that person to find you a job because you gave them the resume. Marketing plan doesn't do that. It's just giving them information so they can help you. And the list of target companies will help them say, oh yeah, my cousin, my neighbor, my wife, my ex-boss works at that company. Let me put you in touch with them. That's a valuable kind of referral, and that's why you give a list of target companies. External recruiters and headhunters. Why don't you want to give your marketing plan to an internal recruiter? Internal recruiter being a recruiter inside a company or organization. You can tell me why.
Because it's got other target companies on it?
It's got all your target companies. And when you interview with that company, you want to convince them that that's the only place you want to work. It is the best fit, best company for you to work, organization. So you do not want to tell them, Booz Allen, that you're also looking at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Grant Thornton, and all the other consulting companies. Because you're going to convince them that's the only place you want to work. Your daily job search tasks should include researching companies and building your network. You're finding your list of target companies, developing at least one contact at each company, information interviews, collaborating with other job seekers and sharing information. So the other truth about job boards. Okay, let me tell you why I don't like job boards. They have their value. Most of the jobs don't even exist. You're surprised, right? They're building the pipeline. If they're a federal contracting company, they may even be using your resume to bid on a project without your even knowing it. Even if they're filling the job internally, they're going to advertise it externally. You're not going to know that they already have an internal person already identified. They leave positions online for extended periods of time, even after they're filled. Because sometimes the job person doesn't work, the person they hire doesn't work out. So what are they good for? Identifying companies who are hiring your skills. Position descriptions. What are employers looking for in terms of skills, levels of experience, certifications, degrees, etc., for the kind of position that you're going after? How competitive are you in the market, given that that's what they're looking for? Can you match that? Maybe you need to bone up on some of those things. Take a course for certification. Do some online classes or whatever. Current job titles. So used to be recruiter, now it's talent acquisition. Talent resource, capital manager or whatever, okay? So it tells you the jargon of job titles that are currently out there. So when you go to apply, you can talk about that. I'm looking for this kind of position, and you appear current and not dated. Buzzwords for your industry or profession. Lots of them develop. Stay current with them. That's also why going to professional organizations are helpful. So those are the value of job boards. I'm not saying you can't get a job on a job board. It's just that your chances of success are very low. Only 2% of jobs that are filled are from online job applications. One thing I forgot to mention, how do they use your resume internally? A lot of the large companies use applicant tracking systems like Taleo is one example. They will ingest the resumes that are submitted for a particular job. They will analyze it for competitive information, to help set salaries, to know what certifications to look for and to put in their job descriptions. So they're actually using your information against you. Little known fact.
What are you considering a job board?
Indeed, Simply Hired, Monster, Career Builder. Okay? But there are some that are good. Small 8A firms. If you
But isn't the same true for LinkedIn? You put all the information out there too.
You do put your information out there too, and they can gather that, but you're not giving them a resume which they can then take and use the module that they purchased from Taleo to actually analyze the resumes. That's what they do. Not all companies do it, the larger companies do. So 8A firms. 8A is a designation by the Small Business Administration for disadvantaged businesses. They typically are small and they typically can't afford a full-time recruiter. So they will post jobs that are real. I actually applied for and got offered a job by an 8A firm on Career Builder or one of the job boards. So it does happen. So if you don't recognize the name of the company, Google it. Find it, see if it's an 8A firm. That job is probably real. Smaller job boards, Craigslist, have real jobs. And DC LinkedIn that I mentioned earlier. So why not just use a resume? Different focus, purpose, audience, content. We've already gone over what a marketing plan. So let's compare them. The only bullet that's the same is the first bullet. Everything else is different. Resume is back-looking. Marketing plan is forward-looking. What you want to do. Maybe related to what you've done, but it's targeted and focused on what you want to do. After you've done your marketing plan, have somebody else look at it who knows you. John, my colleague, was really proud of his marketing plan. He said, well, we've been doing this for about a year and a half, I really know what a marketing plan should be. He gave it to Jim, the other person on our team, got it back with the proverbial blue editing pencil all over it. Because he'd used industry jargon, that Jim didn't know what the heck it meant. So if you are in a very technical field, I recommend that you have a marketing plan that's generic for anybody to understand and one that has all the buzzwords for your industry. It'll make a difference. reevaluate it, it should evolve. It's not a static document written in stone at all. And as I said, save the information. Okay, so let's go back and review the 6 elements that a marketing plan has. And let's take a look at one. Your name, city, state, and zip code. Don't put your street address. Yeah, they can probably Google it and find it, but why hand it to them? You don't know what's going to happen to your marketing plan after you leave that person. It could go in the round file. They could keep it, you don't know. So why give somebody your street address? Just city, state, and zip code.
Do you feel that way about the resume as well?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Contact telephone number, preferably your mobile phone, yes?
Did you say that we're going to give them the marketing plan? I thought you were just going to refer to it while you're meeting with them.
I recommend that you give it to them.
Okay, all right.
Information interviewing, not an interview
Right.
at a company.
Right,
When you're information interviewing, meeting for coffee or whatever with someone.
okay.
If you know the person well, you might send it ahead of time. If you don't know the person well, I'd wait till you meet with them.
Okay.
Your email address, and please have a professional email address. Not red balloons or whatever, not, Poopsie Zone or whatever. Have a professional email address. Some people set up an email address just for the job search. You may want to do that. Yes?
What you said about including your address, should that also be applicable to his resume?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before, and I suspect you get pushback from some others. I mean, I will wonder more about what you're thinking.
Why do they need your street address? They know the city and the state. That's all they need to know.
I agree. You're the first person I've heard say that.
It's all about ID theft. Okay? I mean, they probably can get it with the other, but it's really information they don't need, and it puts you at a little bit more risk. Your telephone number probably ought to be your mobile, so they can reach you at any time. Okay, professional objective. Something short and sweet, exactly sort of the job title or the field you're looking for. So it's readily understandable. Preferred titles. Again, think very carefully about the level. If you were a director at a small organization, you may only be a manager at a large organization. Title level changes as the size of the organization changes. So think really long and hard. If you really are wedded to having a director or VP title, think about it. It may be to your detriment, but that's personal decision and a trade-off you have to make. I would think about talking about scope of responsibility and authority when you're looking for a job rather than fixate on a job level title. Positioning statement. It has to be succinct and compelling, that expresses your value, your unique value proposition, your branding. So if you know anything about software development, and I know Ron does, I don't know anyone else, if anyone else in the room does, but working with software developers is like herding cats. And they don't really respond well to structure. So for this person, this is actually the real marketing plan, a real positioning statement from somebody. The last sentence is key and speaks volumes about this person's skills. In a previous company, I was known as the engineer's favorite project manager. Speaks hugely of this person, that he could build a relationship with software developers and get things done and get things delivered, and he was considered their favorite one. So that's the kind of statement you want in yours. Sets you apart. Says what you can always deliver. Any questions on this so far? Okay. Your competencies. Doesn't have to be 3 columns, could be 2 columns, maybe 4, but 3 is usually about the right one. And your skills grouped under that main skill. So it tells a story about yourself. This example is in the workbook. If you're, I've told people who are software developers, they may just list the languages they know. And the kinds of development they've done, mobile app, enterprise software, adaptation, whatever. Your target market, your geographic preference. Somebody mentioned traffic earlier. Traffic is horrible in this area. We all know it. The trade-off that you're willing to make for your quality of life is a personal decision. What you're willing to trade off to have a job versus time spent with your family or other friends, and the toll that it takes on you to commute. So think long and hard about it. I know someone who lived in lower Montgomery County and commuted to Baltimore for a year because it had the promise of turning into a full-time job. And she thought it was worth it. I've lost contact with her, so I don't know if it actually came to fruition, but she made that decision. We knew someone who was lived in DC and didn't have a car. So wherever she worked had to be on a metro or a bus line. Paying for Lyft every day gets awfully expensive, or the Uber. Industry type. You may be in a function of HR, marketing, finance, whatever, where you are agnostic to industry. Or you may have particular expertise as an HR person or whatever in a particular industry. I know recruiters do specialize. So think about that. Company size. So let's ask a question on company size. George, tell me the number of employees that you think of in a large company.
More than 500.
More than 500. Darcy, what's a large company to you?
48,000.
48,000. Okay, they just illustrated my point. So don't use words small, medium, large, t-shirt sizes. Okay? Use actual numbers. There are some kinds of companies that it's better to talk about revenue, annual revenue. I had someone in my workshop a few months ago who talked about that. Can I use revenue? Absolutely. Whatever's appropriate to the kinds of company that your organizations you're looking for. Also understand, if you've never been in a small family-owned business, really entirely different culture. The family, the head of the family, or whoever's in charge, their personality defines the culture in that organization. So one of the things that you want to absolutely pay attention to is cultural fit. The last company where I was an employee, I was about 20 years older than the median age. The conversation at the coffee urn was very different. I don't do gaming. I had very different interests than they did. They were all involved in their kids and stuff. I don't have kids. So I made it work, but I didn't develop any best friends there. So what are you looking for out of the company? And how are you going to fit in? If you're a baby boomer, or even the next generation below, I recommend that you do a lot of reading on the millennials and the challenges in the workplace to get along with millennials, because they're taking over a lot of jobs and even higher management. It can be done, you just have to be thoughtful about it. Your list of target companies. Put your target companies in here. Could be 2 columns, could be 3. I would recommend. How many companies? 20 to 25. The reason for, it could be fewer, but the reason for that is you're going to be researching these companies. You're going to be going on Glassdoor and LinkedIn and their company website, and maybe even going to SEC if they're a public company and looking at their filings. You're going to be Googling them. You're going to be looking for people who work for them on LinkedIn. You're going to be researching them as much as you can, so that you have all the information you need if you end up interviewing it. You're going to be, so that takes a lot of time. You want to develop a warm contact. 20 to 25 companies when you think about all the work you have to do to research a company, that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of hours. When you're spending your time doing that. So we don't recommend a whole long list. 20, for some people 20 is too many. Think about it. And if you have a longer list, prioritize them. Spend your time and effort on the ones you think are going to yield the best possible pay report. Takeaways. If you have any questions, here's my email. Yes.
Just I want to ask you if there
Can you
is.
speak up a little bit, please?
All right. I want to ask you if there is a best way to look at target companies. You know, it's difficult just sometimes when I try to list out the target companies. It takes, as you said, a lot of time, but I cannot get a good result. So maybe if you can give us a good best way to look for it, just to search it.
To identify target companies? I would recommend that you do searches on LinkedIn for your skill, for your position. See who out there is out there. When you look at somebody, so if I'm looking at somebody for a business analyst, and I have certification now for a certified Scrum product owner, I'm going to look at the company they work for now and the previous companies they work for, because those previous companies can become target companies. And even if you're on Career Builder or Indeed or Simply Hired, if you look at the company, I would recommend networking your way into that company. Just because they're on Simply Hired or Career Builder or whatever, doesn't mean that they're not a good target company for you. I just wouldn't use immediately submitting an application to them. I would try and network your way into that company first, to have somebody refer you or recommend you. When you go to meetups, professional organizations and stuff, think about the companies that those people work for. Make a record of it. So all of those kinds of things. Business news. If you don't subscribe to Potomac Tech Newswire, I recommend it if you're in the technology field, because it has lots of information about it. If you live in Fairfax County or wouldn't mind commuting to Fairfax County, the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, fairfaxcountyeda.org, fairfaxcountyeda.org, publishes a twice-a-week newsletter about companies doing business in Fairfax County and or located in Fairfax County. Tons of information about companies. Their website is a treasure trove of information. Those kinds of things. Every local jurisdiction has an economic development authority or department, organization. They have tons of information. Yes, what they're trying to do is attract businesses to their jurisdiction, but all the information that they have about companies that are located there, who they're targeting and stuff, is good information for you as a job seeker. So I recommend all of those sources. There are other tips and resources in the workbook, but you want to identify all the sources of information that you can, and ask other job seekers, where are you finding information? That's the kind of networking with other job seekers that's really valuable. It's other events, job fairs, resources, tips they've learned. And I really recommend, for those of you job hunting, form a group of fellow job seekers. 8 to 10, 6 to 8, 10 people. Meet weekly, Skype or in person. In person's better, but geographically you may not be able to do that. Have an agenda for each week. Critique each other's marketing plan, LinkedIn profile, resumes. Practice interview questions. Decide next week we're going to do interview questions. Here's a list of interview questions. Prepare response for each one of them, and we'll go around the table. Do that for several sessions. Practice your tell me about yourself speech. I did this with a group of friends. It was enormously valuable. You want those tell me about yourself, your success bites and stuff to roll off your tongue like it's on a tape recorder yourself, but not sound like a tape recorder. Okay? All of that practice, all of that sharing is enormously helpful. You're not alone, don't be alone. Yes?
You started off with the marketing plan, and I'm assuming that you're going to give this marketing plan to someone.
Right.
But the last part, targeted list of companies, that wouldn't be on the marketing plan.
Oh, it is. It's part of the marketing plan.
You mean
All of
20
those sections that I showed are part of the marketing plan.
Even the 20, 25 companies?
Yes. Because when you show them the plan, they might know somebody who works there. And they can say, gee, my cousin works there. Or my sister-in-law works there. Or, my best friend's son just got hired there. And they can provide an introduction, a referral for you.
Or they might want to say, you don't want to work there because.
Exactly. There's a lot of that going around. Yeah, I've done this to a couple places for people. Absolutely.
What do you mean by tell me about yourself? That's different than the elevator pitch?
It could be. Tell me about yourself is usually the first question you get in an interview.
Oh, okay.
And you want a succinct statement about who you are and what value you're going to deliver to that company that sets the tone for the rest of the interview. Your elevator pitch is to a stranger, and how I would distinguish it is, a lot of people teach an elevator pitch that's like you talk nonstop for 60 to 90 seconds, don't pause or anything. I really think a elevator pitch needs to be a kind of a teaser, to say something that invites the other person to ask you questions. Tell me more. What do you mean by that? I've never heard that term before. If you come up with some clever thing in your elevator pitch. So I've heard lots of people talk about elevator pitches, and that's the one that I like the best, because then it becomes a conversation and not a solo presentation. But that's how I would distinguish the elevator pitch and the tell me about yourself. You want to chime in, Ken?
Sure. So as I mentioned, you've heard before, this Team A, this Tell Me About Yourself message, is a bedrock of the 40+ program. For those of you who are in the class right now or been in the class before, you know that in the 13 modules of our program, you're going to have that Team A iterate 13 times. We often develop 3 versions. A 30-second version, which is that elevator pitch type environment, that networking environment where you've got to be very succinct to someone who may or may not know you. A longer version, and then an even longer version. So 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. The 2-minute version I often refer to as the director's cut. It's that complete list of information, that complete set of information that you're comfortable reciting, oftentimes without looking at paper, but it may not be something you're going to use live. The director's cut's not what we see in the movies, but it's this complete set of information. The 30-second version sometimes follows a structure like this. I am, it's really one sentence about who you are. I can, with, depending on how much time you have, 1 or more examples, success bites, of the results you've created in the past, the impact that you've created. So I am, I can, and I want. What are you looking for? What's the next step for you? You want to articulate your value, as we talked about before, that nugget of who you are or what you're looking for. I often think of that as your frequency. Kenneth, what's the frequency? You have to help people help you. And if you say, I'm looking for anything in sort of the administrative or finance, nobody can help you with that. Right? But if you say, I'm looking for this because I can do this, and I'm ready to do this, people will know if they can help you. So it's a little different on the Team A versus the elevator pitch.
The marketing plan helps others help you. You've given them information about you, a thumbnail sketch, as I mentioned before, that succinctly describes, now that you've seen the example, who you are, what you do, what value you deliver, what you're looking for, the kinds of companies that you're targeted. They may mention a company you should consider that's not on your list. So providing people a list of companies or organizations helps them. All of the information in the marketing plan helps others help you. And that's one of the things you want to do. So to sum up, it's multi-steps of figuring out who you are, what you want to do, and where you want to do it. It is a plan to execute every day. You're researching those companies. You're looking to see if you should add companies. and you're sharing your plan with others. That's what the marketing plan is. So it brings together many of the elements that you may have heard other speakers talk about, branding, networking, whatever, all into one effort and document. My email address has my name in caps because often people leave out the L, and I see them later and they say, I sent you an email, I didn't hear anything back. I never got it. So that's why that's in caps. Not that I feel like that I'm that important, but it just helps people copy down the right email address. Yes?
Could you kindly just share again who you should give your marketing plan to?
Anybody you're meeting to get information from. When you're information interviewing, when you're meeting with someone, information interviewing is a critical skill, and it should be a core piece of your job search. Because you're meeting with people to find out information about their career, what you should consider, what skills they're using, how they made the transition from the last company to this company. That's what you want to get. You, as a job seeker, you are a curator of information that you can then use to target your job search. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yes?
What's your position on company recruiters? So you've identified a position at a company, but you don't have any connections on LinkedIn, but you found a recruiter on LinkedIn. Do you do any outreach even though they don't know you?
I would. What have you got to lose? But you want to be very, very, very succinct and compelling in your LinkedIn invitation to connect with them. Okay? But yes, I would. And if they don't respond to you, you haven't lost anything because you didn't have it beforehand. A lot of recruiters do invite connections. Some don't. Some don't. So it just, take a shot. What have you got to lose? Yes, Tom?
Yeah, Francine, to answer your question, I'm a former employment manager and headhunter, and yes, reach out to the people. However, do your research. Remember, the corporate recruiter has jobs to fill. That's
Right.
what that person is doing. So if you feel that your background, your credentials, and your skills, and what you can add to the company is profitable, then certainly, because you're making that recruiter's job easier.
Right, and you might mention the job that you're looking for
Right.
and put the reference number in it.
Right.
I saw this, I'm really interested in it. Are you recruiting for this position, or can you put me in touch with the recruiter who is?
Okay.
Okay. The other place you might want to go is Project Save. S.A.B.E. It's on Meetup. Typically out in Northern Virginia. Typically in high-tech arena. But it is an organization of recruiters. And they allow job hunters to come. And if they have time, they allow job seekers to stand up and say what they're looking for. I made a connection, I was considered for a job, I didn't end up getting it, but I never would have gotten, because I'd submitted an application to this company before, I never would have gotten in to the recruiter had I not gone to that and made a personal connection with that recruiter. Project SAVE, and SAVE is an acronym with a period after each, and they're on Meetup. Run by a terrific guy, Mike Bruni. Mike Bruni. Started by a fellow who used to be at Booz, who's somebody Clough, I believe. Pardon?
I know.
Yeah. What's his first name?
Is it Tom? I'm not sure.
No. Gary Clough.
Yeah, he's been on
Gary
a
Clough.
lot.
I think it's Gary Clough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you're in the high-tech federal contracting arena, and other employers go there too. The company that I went to was management consulting, and a very small boutique firm, whom I still have the highest regard for. And anybody I meet who's in their late 20s, early 30s, and think about management consulting, and has been at one of the major consulting firms, I always recommend that they go there. And I still stay in contact with the recruiter there, so.
And Francine, a group you know well, again, for those folks in the technology arena, women in technology.
Women in technology, absolutely. Women in technology, and they have a Meet the Company event every month, and the company hosts it. And the recent one was Geico in Chevy Chase, DC, and on one of the slides that Ken had up earlier, they have a job fair in March. You don't have to be a member or female to attend the job fair.
And having attended on behalf of 40 Plus the last couple of times, it's fantastic. I was stunned and very impressed by the quality of the companies they had, the range of size of companies, again, all in the tech space, but companies ranging from Microsoft and SAP, Ernst & Young, to, and you had this on your slides earlier, to small contractors who, and oftentimes 8A firms, who are subcontractors usually to a larger organization in the tech space. These folks just got awarded a contract. They needed to hire 12 people who were capable in some alphabet soup of certification and technology tomorrow. I mean, they were taking resumes as fast as they could. So this is a bona fide job fair with real companies, with real jobs, and again, all range size of companies. So, and it's not just those folks with the technical certifications, because they also need people to be the contract administrators, the grant management people, the marketing people as well. So
technical writers, the whole 9 yards. One tip, if it's again at the Sheraton at Tyson's, go early. They have a very small garage and it fills up pretty darn quick.
A great event.
So go early. It's a great event.
Did you have a question? I think you had your hands up a minute ago.
Yes.
Oh, I think it was back when you asked about the marketing plan, and one thing that came up in my coaching and outplacement, they called it a handbill. They put together a little template, but I think it's essentially a marketing plan, and it's forward-facing instead of a resume. But you can give that to somebody in a different way. That if you give your resume to and when I was in a hiring position, I would often get resumes from friends, and it's like, you know, if you give somebody your resume, they feel like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know. I'm happy to help, but I don't know. If you give the marketing plan that says, you know, here's the kind of jobs I'm looking at, the kind of organizations I'm trying to find out about, it's sort of it's often simpler than a resume. It should be one page. Again, it was described to me as a handbill, just something, you know, like a big business card essentially. But it's somehow, I think, more helpful or less threatening than doing something.
Because it's a thumbnail sketch of you, and it helps them help you, because it really describes forward what you want to do, you know, kind of thing. In the workbook, there is a one-page marketing plan that's really appropriate for somebody who's really experienced, senior level kind of person. And it is the actual marketing plan that a fellow member at Career Network Ministry had, and he allowed us to use it, and I took out all the personal identifying information for him. And it's really excellent for senior people. So I recommend that, yes.
2 questions. One was that Women in Technology, was that a meetup group?
No, they have a website, womenintechnologydc.org, I believe.
Okay.
If you just Google Women in Technology DC, you'll find it.
Okay. And the other was when you're really done, could I ask you to go back to the slide that had the daily job search tasks? I would like to.
You're going to get it in the presentation.
I know, but I'd really like to write that down because you never know.
All right.
And you went off it really quick.
All right, one more question. This woman, the one in the corner, had her hand up first. Sorry, sir.
I'll just give my question to her.
It's not fair, actually, because I'm an employer. I'm looking for precisely a technical writer, business proposal writer, and I came to see also what was this about, and wanted to share, besides all the great tips that you, we're a small consulting firm in technology for federal government. We're a government contracting company, and just wanted to add a few things. One is you want to make a list of the things that you want in a job, and you want to prioritize that. Because when somebody that is interviewing you asks you, what is your main, differentiator in your job seeking, you want to really give a straight answer. I typically and often will discard a candidate because I feel that they are not sure really what they are looking for, and most employers don't want to give you a job just because you're looking for a job. The second thing that I will say is that I typically ask what prompted you to apply to our posting or to our job. You want to do research about the company, you want to know what they're doing and why is that important to you and relevant to your career. And the third thing and most important thing is you want to show that you are learning constantly about the field that you are in. So cite, recent articles that you read, a book, a conference that you went to, because in today's environment, it's very important, and my number one criteria for hiring is the capability of the person to learn. In today's world, there's no set in stone, and believe me, our projects require lots of skills. So even if somebody's really good technically speaking, often they don't have everything that we are requiring for the job posting. So those brave enough that they're to answer to our job posting, I want them to know that they can learn those skills, because we have gotten so many people that have started in the project and after 2 months they quit because they tell me it's too much to learn. Oh my God, it's so unbelievable. And it's something that over the time we have realized that our number one criteria has to be somebody that wants to learn. And that also applies to every field. Nowadays, we are really just learners.
That's right.
So just wanted to share those things with you.
And if I can just to piggyback on the learning, I don't know if anybody's familiar with EDX University.
Wow.
EDX University is an excellent resource for outsourced for different universities. I know Harvard, MIT, Princeton online.
Yeah,
for
MOOCs.
staying current.
Yeah,
Yes.
other MOOCs, massive
And
online
those-
courses.
yeah.
If you Google MOOC, you'll find.
And the prices are great.
Yeah, the prices are great. They've started charging, what used to be free, now they're starting to charge for.
Right.
But if you live in Arlington or Fairfax County, the public library system now offers Lynda for public libraries. It's
DC
not-
does too.
NBC.
DC does.
Yeah,
too.
DC does,
Yes,
yeah.
always
Okay.
has.
So get a library card, go online to the online resources, LYNDA. I don't think it's their entire catalog of courses, but Fairfax advertised 6,000 courses available to you online for free. So I'll hang out after
Great.
this.
Francine,
Thank you very much
so much.
Thank you.
On behalf of 40 Plus, this is mementos to help you start your day and think about us. We appreciate it. Take a minute, give us your feedback. We really value this. All the suggestions we get, we try to